But let's start with some action out of the UEFA Champions League. The group of death, as they say, AC Milan away to Newcastle on Wednesday. Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musah in the starting 11 as Milan won 2-1. They're out of the Champions League, Herc, but they are into the Europa League, and it was a big game for Pulisic. Here's his first Champions League goal for Milan.
Yeah, I don't know how much Oliver Giroud knew about that pass, but it makes its way to Christian Pulisic, and Christian Pulisic continues to be as productive as he's ever been.
His sixth goal across 19 games in all competitions since joining AC Milan from Chelsea in the summer transfer window. Speaking of our big transfer move in the last couple months, welcome into the show now our good friend and colleague, Shaka Hislop, of course, a legend of Trinidad and Tobago football. Shaka, great to have you with us. Sorry for the AC Milan victory. I know you were devastated by that with your Newcastle ways. Of course, Shaka, an ex-Newcastle goalie in his heyday. What did you make, Shaka, of not just Pulisic's goal, but the performance as well?
Listen, I thought AC Milan played the game wonderfully well. On the other, Newcastle were looking for the win. A win would take them into the Champions League, and obviously a loss would have them bottom of the group and out to European football. And I don't fault Newcastle at all for going all or bust. In all honesty, it was an end-to-end game. Milan themselves could have qualified for the Champions League if they won, and Dortmund beat PSG. Milan would have gone through. So it was a fairly open game. I'll counter Herc and think Olivier Giroud knew exactly what he's doing with that pass to pick out Christian Pulisic. I don't think that was an accident at all. It was a wonderful game to watch for a number of reasons. Unfortunately, Newcastle threw all caution to the wind, came out the wrong side of it, and are left with nothing as a result. But that takes nothing away from Milan's performance and, well, their reward of going into the Europa League.
Herc, what did you think of Pulisic?
I thought Christian was quite good. He was very positive. Listen, it's not Milan's fault that Newcastle's a hospital today. They got like 10, 12 injuries. It is what it is. Same players have been playing the same game, same lineup for the last 6 games in like 15, 18 days. Not their fault. Milan put themselves in this situation. They could have taken care of Newcastle at home in the first game of the Champions League. It should have been 4-5-0. It was not. That's the first game and only game that Christian Pulisic does not start for Stefano Pioli in the Champions League, and it cost this team. I thought Christian Pulisic was very positive, and again, when Stefano Pioli needed somebody, it was Christian Pulisic. I thought he was bright on the day. I was disappointed to see him coming out because there's a few transition moments at the end of the game that a Christian Pulisic running at you with the Rafa Leao or with anybody else is a prime suspect to put that away. I was bummed that he wasn't there in those final stages, but I thought overall his performance was very positive.
Shaka, how big a deal is it for Christian Pulisic, and I guess for Yunus Musah, different stage of his career, to miss out on the knockout rounds of the Champions League? There is the silver lining, as many are pointing out, of Europa League. I think a competition that Milan, if not favored to win, will certainly be among the favorites to win, right?
Yeah, Milan is. Once you're coming down from the Champions League, you'll be expected to go far in that competition. Of course, winning the Europa League comes with the reward of Champions League next season. So there's a lot of incentive for that. Going out at this stage, I don't think it affects either Musah or Pulisic in any way. I think AC Milan are still a club in transition, given what we saw transfer-wise this summer. I think they did better than I certainly expected them to. While Pioli himself, because of indifferent form in the league, has found himself under pressure. At least this has eased that somewhat in terms of what they can plan for in the short and medium, if not long term. But all in all, I don't think the victory or going out of the Champions League in this group in particular affects either. I'm with Herc, and I thought Christian Pulisic had a really good day. Again, it was an end-to-end game, and one that I thought Pulisic sat on the shoulders of the centre halves, both Lascelles and Shah, and stretched Newcastle defensively. So Newcastle weren't able to press maybe as high up the park as they would have liked, or certainly when they tried, they always found themselves leaving room in behind, and that's where Pulisic exploited. And I thought in the way he positioned himself was really good on the night.
So I was thinking about this. how it affects these two players. And for Yunus Musa, I don't think it affects him at all. If anything, it's a better situation for him because nobody realistically has Milan going far in the Champions League. They could be a team that goes far, a la Liverpool, in the Europa League. So he's going to get more European competition, more games. But specifically on Christian Pulisic, who's already won this competition with Champions League, you would expect him, you think a player of that caliber deserves to be in the Champions League. Let me tell you how it affects him. It doesn't. The only thing that affects him is the positive game that he played that, by the way, when he scores, at that moment, it was 50% of AC Milan's goals in the Champions League. They scored up until the moment when Pulisic scored the second goal, their second goal in Champions League. So look, for Christian Pulisic, what he just did is he saved Stefano Pioli's job, a coach who's in constant pressure. If they don't win that game, they're not going to Europa League. They're crashing out. There is no Europa League. You're talking about an enormous failure for Stefano Pioli, and he could be on the way out. A coach that Christian Pulisic finally finds a coach who believes in him, finally finds a coach who plays him, where he's productive, where he's in arguably one of the best forms of his life. And today, I would say arguably the best player that AC Milan has, outfield player, I should say, that AC Milan has. This crashing out of Champions League, if you will, does very little for Milan and maybe Pulisic, but it gives them a hell of a lot going forward.
Chuck, I got to give you a word there. I feel like Rafael Leao is watching us right now, who's been on Football Americas, by the way. He's screaming at the television saying, Herc, what about me? Christian Pulisic ahead of me?
Yes, he's ahead of Rafael Leao for sure. Yeah, Magic Mike's the only one I think could rival that one right now.
Shaka, bring us back to earth here.
Yeah, I thought both, and Leao played his part in the goal as well. Leao is a player that I absolutely love. He's not been having a great season he's been very inconsistent this season, which I think is disappointing for somebody of his quality. That being said, you put that down again. This is a club going through a transition, as they keep reminding me, kind of given everything that's happened over the summer. So let's see how that flushes out. But I think this is a one-off for Leao. He's one of the brighter talents in that AC Milan dressing room. I don't think he's at all bothered about being overshadowed by Pulisic, at least in this instance.
Christian Pulisic, the first U.S. men's national team player to score for 3 different clubs in the Champions League. So making some history, not just any 3 clubs. Of course, Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea, and AC Milan.